Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Traveling Therapist Podcast. Really excited today. We have a super cool guest that has a really interesting story and, is particularly interesting to me because running the group of the traveling therapists, running this podcast, I really have wanted to do some group travel with the traveling therapist, but, it's on my radar. I've never been able to do this. So, Heather, I would love if you could introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. My name is Heather Sutherlin. I am the owner of an agency called the Travel Bug Girls. We are a concierge level travel agency that specializes in group travel for women specifically. And we also have a podcast ourselves, the Travel Bug Girls podcast. And yeah, that's what we do. We build group travel.
I love that, yeah. Tell me about the name. I've gotta hear about this name. How did you come up with this, Travel Bug Girls?
Well, it was really meant to be a lighthearted at the time when I was building my business. I was like, I want it to be fun. I want it to be carefree. I really want to focus on working with women who have the travel bug, who really want to travel and see more of the world, but feel like maybe they're not in a place where they have other people who can go with them. And so I wanted it to just be a really fun and lighthearted business. And it really has grown into something beautiful. I'm really grateful.
That's amazing. So part of what you were telling me before is you took a trip with your daughter, right? You were talking a little bit about that and how that you learned a lot from that, and I think it kinda sounded like from your bio that that's what led into this to begin with, and maybe you could tell us about that, like how that came about.
Yes, when my daughter was in high school, we had an opportunity to go to Australia and New Zealand together. And we were gone for 3 full weeks. It was an amazing, like, once in a lifetime trip. That experience of traveling just the 2 of us, we were in the middle of a very busy, stressful season in life. And to be able to really slip away completely into what felt like a different world, a part of the world we had never been in, and have that time just the 2 of us, and the whole goal was like, "Let's have an adventure." It was life-giving, it really was, but out of that came so much inspiration. We were entering a phase of transition, moving back to the United States from France, and we had had a lot of purpose in our daily life when we were working in France, and we were moving back to the States, and I was just feeling a little lost, but I kept thinking about that trip and all the ideas I'd had while we were traveling, like, "Oh, we should make it easier for women to do this. We should make it so that women can travel more like this because it's so energizing to leave your trouble behind for a few days or a few weeks and focus on adventure and play and also that relationship with the person you're traveling with." We came back like solid best friends, which not every mom of a teenager gets to experience.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It was amazing. It was such a gift, and it really shaped not only our relationship going forward, but ultimately my business. I built my business a year later.
Oh my gosh, that's
Mm.
amazing. So you were living in France just, like, randomly or, like, working in France?
It
I
does feel
think
kind of
people that heard
randomly.
that are probably like, "Wait, how are you living in France first?"
Yes,
They probably would've did that.
so our family ended up buying a small chateau,
Oh my
essentially,
gosh,
in the
really?
French countryside, literally in the middle of nowhere.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
backwoods France, like, and it was beautiful and had never been lived in fully, and we turned it into a bed and breakfast for missionaries, so we have guests from all over the world who come and stay in the chateau.
Are you
We were there
serious?
for 3.5 years, and we went from everything's broken and falling apart to having a house full of guests in those 3 years, and then handed it over to my parents who were therapists. They were marriage and
Oh my
family
gosh.
therapists, and they needed that time to close down their practice so that they could move. They had been doing a lot of online therapy for missionaries all over the world and working with teams in Europe and Africa and different places. And so they really wanted this place that could be an outside space, an in-between space where people could come for extensive healing or even just downtime. Sometimes their work is very stressful if they're working in poverty groups and extreme situations. So, really making sure they have a separate space that's in between home, which is often the US, and their work in whatever foreign country they're working in. So that's what we did. We set up that. And so, yeah, so I'm also connected to traveling therapists. My best friend when we lived in France was the one other American, and she was a therapist working with an online program while she lived in this middle of nowhere village in France.
That is amazing. Oh
So
my
I'm kind of
gosh.
surrounded by all of you as well.
That is such a cool story. Oh my gosh. So, I always see these like ads like move to Italy for $1 if you buy a chateau here or whatever and fix it up and we'll let you live here for 3 years or something free or something like that. So I think people have that dream to like, okay, how really cool is that to just be able
It
to
was
just
very cool. An
wow. So
incredible adventure.
do you still own that or is it
Yes, yes,
oh
that's a
wow.
running work still. It's called Restored and Renewed Ministry, restoredandrenewedministry.com. You can look it up. My mother manages it now, and so she's there full time, and we just get to go every year or so and spend a couple weeks. So
That is amazing. Oh my
it
gosh.
is.
So is your mom still a therapist or is she like totally out of the therapy world now?
She's officially retired, but yes, that is her daily work aside from maintaining this, ancient building.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I bet that is like full
yeah.
time. Oh my
And
gosh.
she has a team there that she's trained to. My parents had both gotten to the point where they were training other therapists. They taught at John Brown
Wow.
University in the counseling department. And so my dad was on the licensing board in Arkansas. So they both had done a lot of work in training other therapists. So she has essentially trained her replacement. And so
Super
they
interesting.
share that work there. Yeah, right.
That is really
Amazing.
interesting. I might have to
Mhm.
ask them to be on my podcast.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure she'd love to. Yeah.
That's so cool because part of what we talk about in this podcast is like entrepreneurship and, other income streams for therapists to kind of get away from that one-to-one model and not be so burned out having to see so many clients all the time. So I love hearing stories like that where therapists are like, no, yeah, I'll do some therapy, but I'm also going to like restore this chateau in France and just really interesting. That's so cool
Yeah.
to just let people know that you can just do anything really.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, once you let go of I have to be in this office all day long and you give
Yeah.
yourself freedom to think creatively about what your life could be like, I feel like the doors just open wide up. That process of letting go of our life in the US really did make it possible for us to do a lot of different things. My husband was definitely a corporate lifestyle kind of guy. And being able to step outside of that has just made the rest of our life much more fluid and
Oh my
beautiful.
gosh, that's
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah, because that's, like, the next thing I wanted to ask you is, were you always just into this type of stuff, or did you have a career and then you decided, "I'm gonna be a travel agent instead?"
I've had all the lives. I've tried I'm that girl who, like, couldn't decide what she wanted to be when she grew up,
Yeah.
and really was that I wanted to be everything. I wanted to have all the lives. So I went to culinary school, I
Oh
became
my
an
gosh.
author, I wrote 12 novels. I have a
Really?
degree in education, and so I've taught on and off in between there. I also homeschooled my kids till they went to college, which also enabled us to go to France, by the way,
Yes,
having that
yeah.
freedom. I was a car salesman. I've done a lot of different things, but this has really been a beautiful thing for me because it brings together a lot of my passions.
Mhm.
And what I really found was what I was most drawn to was just owning my own business, building something from nothing, and
Yeah.
also building a team. So that's something else I've been able to do. From the day I opened my business and it was just little old me, I was envisioning this time when I would have a group of women who all had different talents and specialties,
Mm.
and we work together to help clients build different kinds of trips. And so that's what
Oh,
I've gotten to
yeah.
do. Now I'm getting to live in my dream. And I have the incredible
Wow.
travel bug girls, all of this together. There's 5 of us that are working together. It is beautiful. It's a lot of fun. So
Mhm.
I also get to travel the world and meet new
Yes.
people. So
That's so
yeah, it's the
amazing.
best
So
of all
what are their
things.
specialties? I think that's so interesting. What do they all do? Like,
Yeah,
what's the
so we
different
have Kara, she specializes in Europe. And then Kathy, she specializes in multi-generational family travel and also Disney
um,
Universal Studios. She does a lot of big family group trips. And then we have Tina, who specializes in wellness travel. She's a yoga
Nice.
instructor turned travel agent.
Ooh.
And so she likes to bring all of that together and build trips that really make you come home refreshed in a new way.
Yes.
And then Kimmy was our cruise director, but now she's our podcast director. She's working now full time in our podcast.
That is so
Yeah.
cool. Oh my gosh. Wow. So, this is a group of therapists, and many of them are entrepreneurial and want to do like retreats and conferences and, like me, maybe a group trip with their
Mhm.
audiences, that sort of thing. So, what would that look like? Like, if we wanted to work with you, like, what is the process for this?
I would love to help. That's what I used to be the European specialist, and now I work almost exclusively with small businesses,
Okay.
helping you do exactly that. We love to help business owners build something that they're gonna be very proud of. We want it to be aligned with your brand, and so we start by having a conversation like this. We'll have a brainstorming session. What is it you envision? What do you wish could happen? If I could make it happen for you, what do you wish could happen? And then from there, I'll probably bring some of my own ideas too that maybe you haven't thought of. So that's really fun. That whole part is really fun. And then we start the strategy session. Okay, if we're going to do this and you are hoping to have this kind of profit, then you're going to need this many people to come in at this rate, So you can have less people if you charge more, or you can have more people if you charge less, maybe, but we work out the details. Then I start looking for venues that match your vision. Let's find the perfect place that is going to host this beautiful thing. And that can be tricky because sometimes what people imagine is not always accessible or profitable, or there can be a lot of things like, if you're imagining this beautiful castle up in the mountains somewhere, because you really want to go all out and make it unique. Well, that's great, but how are we going to get them there? Because often people don't realize that those are very remote and you can't just fly in and show up. You're going to have to fly in 2 hours away and somehow get to this location. So there's a lot of details that go into the planning part, but that's where we can come in and really say, but we're going to figure it out and we're going to find a place that's just right for you. And then also handling all of the budgeting, making sure that we've thought through all the details so that you do end up with a profit if that's what you're looking for. And if what you're looking for is just a free work vacation that you can write off on your taxes, then we can make that happen too. And there's a lot of ways we can do that. And sometimes there's some easy ways to do that too, like cruises will give you a free
Yeah.
room if you get a certain
Oh.
number of rooms. A lot of resorts
Oh.
will do that too. So sometimes we can do something really more simplistic, but fabulous, and find a way to make it really something people go home and tell everyone else about so that you can have repeat customers that way. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so fun. So is it always like one place or is it like you could do tours? Because I've taken a couple of tours, like Portugal, for example, I did with my mom, and the whole thing was planned. I loved it. It was like, they pick you up at the airport, they put you on the transportation, like you don't even have to think. But we got to go to all these
Exactly.
different hotels that they had already booked. They made sure our luggage was in our room. Like it was super like concierge, I guess, where they just handled all that
Exactly.
in the back end.
Yeah, when we're putting so if you go on our website, travelbuggirls.com, and you click on girls trips, most of those are gonna be something like that.
Oh, okay.
We'll put in once in a while a cruise or something because we have a lot of requests for that, but mostly we're gonna have a lot of group tours, and we work with companies that specialize in this and have been doing it forever in that location so that they really have established relationships with the businesses that they're having to use, the restaurants, the hotel, the places where you're, sightseeing, everything. They will have it down to a science. And they often will use a local guide. So you also have someone who speaks the
I
local
love
language.
that.
So if you
Yeah.
are in Portugal and you speak no Portuguese, we have people who live there and are working there regularly, and they speak both English and Portuguese so that they can interpret and take care of you and protect you also. And so that's a really beautiful way to do it, and definitely and a lot of those companies too offer some free time in the evening. So if you also wanna have your group meet together in the evening and do some kind of exercise or debrief or even just a social time, you can all have lunch together, or you can all, go after dinner and have drinks together or something. So there's plenty of room still for some flexibility even in those tighter schedules usually.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
So
it
what's a
is
cool
fun.
trip, really, like, unusual one you guys have planned for somebody? I'd love to hear just, like, the most outrageous.
Okay, the most shocking, which really opened my eyes and made me start thinking like I need to think out of the box in order to work better for business owners, was I met a girl who owns a yarn shop in Washington,
Oh,
and she
okay.
works with knitters and crochet and weavers, all this day in and day out. And she discovered one day that she was telling a customer about her cruise she was going to go on. That's a knitting cruise. And her
Oh my
customer
gosh.
said, "Oh my gosh, I love that kind of stuff too. I'm always trying to find a vacation that I can go with other knitters and do knit, and I always stop at the yarn shop wherever we are," and they plan their vacations around their hobby. And she said, "Well, if everyone else is doing that just like I'm doing it, why don't I offer that as part of my business and we can all go together?" And so now that's what we're doing. And so she's putting together we are putting together like 4 trips a year. That's a
Oh
combination
my
of like a
gosh.
cruise, a local, go down to the next town over and go to the yarn shop and stay for the weekend and go shopping. And they took a train trip together. So they're all going and they're going to be knitting on the train on the
Oh
way.
my
So,
gosh.
it was amazing to me. And I started thinking of like all the other people that are like that, quilters and board gamers and all these different groups that have something in
Yes.
common that they would love to be with other people who love that too.
Oh my
It's really
gosh.
not that different than before when I was planning culinary trips. And
Hmm.
literally, the common factor is we all love food and we want to try new food and we want to go to the source of the, we want to go to Italy and try the wine and the olive oil and see
Yeah.
how they make the pasta. And it's the same kind of concept, but it's really fun to see how vacations and travel can be built around just about anything.
That is so cool. Oh my
It's
gosh. I
really
can't wait to
fun.
go explore your website.
Definitely. Please come and travel with us or give me a
Okay.
call
Yeah.
and I will help you plan your own amazing trip.
I love that. Sounds like, and
Well,
what a cool job you've got. I mean,
mm,
how fun to plan trips for people.
I
Yeah.
get to meet the most amazing people. I
Yes.
love my
Oh my
job.
gosh.
And I love now that I'm working with small business owners, now I'm hanging out with my favorite people, because I'm a small business owner. And so we get to talk business and strategy and like, how do I make this profitable and still have people love me and not feel like I'm taking advantage of them? And like, how do I have enough left over that I can do the next amazing thing in my business that I'm hoping to do? So I get to hang out with people who are trying to build something beautiful in their own way, and I love that. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you feel like the type of person that we could just call you up and like pick your brain and say, give me an idea. Like, I'm not sure what would be
100%.
good. I'm thinking like, how do you poll your audience? I'd have to poll the audience and get ideas and, have them vote and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
And,
that's definitely where I end up being the therapist.
yeah.
I'm like the small business coach in that way, where I'm like, let's think a little deeper about this. What is it you're really hoping to gain? Are you looking for more followers? Are you wishing your people were closer to each other? Are you just looking for more money? Like, what is your real goal? And let's get to the bottom of that. And then let's build to make that happen. So
Yeah.
it's so much
Right.
more than just a trip usually. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You've got my wheels turning. So, how does somebody work with you? What's the first step? Where do they find you? All of that.
Sure. The best place to find me is to go to our website,
Okay.
travelbuggirls.com. You can click on my face and that'll open my page, which is also travelbuggirls.com/Heather. And on there is a place that'll tell you more about business and how I work with business owners, and also where you can directly book a consultation with me that's free. So we can just have a conversation and see what you think about it. We also have a whole page that goes into a lot more ideas and explanation of how that process works. And that is travelbuggirls.com/B2B, the number
Okay.
2.
B2B.
So business
Okay.
to business. And that is where I've just dumped all the information. So you can read through and see what other businesses we worked with, yoga studios and places like that. So you can have a better idea of what's possible. And there's a form on there too. So that's the fastest way to reach me. But also feel free to stalk me. We're on just about every social media. I'm just now starting on LinkedIn. I haven't been very brave with LinkedIn. So probably all of you could teach me better how to do
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
So, how much lead time would you need for somebody if they're listening to this and they're like, "Gosh, I want to plan a trip for whoever." How much lead time do you recommend to get it all
Uh,
set up?
I recommend at least 6 months because the hardest part of all of this is actually promotion. So unless you have a hot audience that is like clamoring for what you are throwing out there and they have plenty of money to spend to hang out with you in whatever beautiful place you've picked, unless that is your case, then you need at least 6 months. And we really recommend to plan out a year in advance. It's going to help you have plenty of time to promote it in all of the places, and we know in marketing, it takes people really like 7 times to see something before they finally interact, even if they want to the first time, before they really commit or take that next step. They're going to have to see it a few times. So we want to make sure that they have that opportunity. And that's really where my agency is a little different than just a regular travel agency, in that we can provide marketing packages for you too, where we can make all the graphics for Facebook and Instagram. We can do cute little videos if you want. We can write newsletter templates for you, or blog post articles, or whatever you think will be most helpful to your audience. And then we also can promote on our website and on our podcast. And so there's a lot of other things we can add on if you want more help with the marketing side. If you're like, I just want to have the idea and then show up somewhere beautiful,
Yeah.
and I'll
That
pay you to
sounds
do the rest.
ideal.
So, we can do the travel planning, but we can also do the marketing, and you can choose what works best for you there. So
That's so cool.
we
Oh my
try to make it
gosh.
easy for you to succeed.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, thanks for taking the time today to share
Mhm.
with us. I think probably the listeners are going to be really excited about this episode and hearing everything that's possible. And just know, I mean, you could do it with your family or a business or whatever.
Of course. I mean, still call us about your own personal vacations if you need to get away. But all of you are already traveling and doing beautiful things, hopefully. So
Absolutely.
we
Yep.
want to help you have, all of the things that you're looking forward to in building your business. But also feel free to stalk us just because you love travel. And so do
Yeah.
we. So we
Yes.
can be your new travel BFFs.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me.